Welcome back to our Route 66 adventure. We're now in Oklahoma, the longest stretch of Route 66, covering around 400 miles of classic road trip goodness. And this state is packed with Route 66 history, quirky stops, and beautiful scenery. Let's get started.
First up, we entered Oklahoma and made a stop in Eric, a small town known as the redneck capital of the world. Eric is also the hometown of the late Roger Miller, famous for the song King of the Road.
We then drove over the Timber Creek Bridge, a steel truss bridge built in 1933. It's a great example of the kind of craftsmanship that went into these old Route 66 structures. Some of them are still standing strong nearly a century later. We checked in for the night at the Flamingo Inn, one of those classic Route 66 motels that's been serving travellers since the mid-20th century. The neon flamingo sign is a nod to the retro style of the 1950s and 60s.
Next up was the National Route 66 Museum in Elk City. This one is all about the small towns and the people who lived along the route, and it really gives you a sense of the American spirit. They even have a recreation of a Route 66 town inside. Next, we explored the Oklahoma Route 66 Museum in Clinton. It's filled with exhibits that take you through the history of Route 66 from its earliest days in the Dust Bowl to the Golden Age in the 50s. It is a must visit if you're a history buff or just love the nostalgia of the open road.
We were museumed out at this point, so we skipped the Stafford Air and Space Museum. It's a pretty impressive place if you're into aviation, named after astronaut Thomas Stafford.
We couldn't miss the Giants display in Weatherford. There is a collection of enormous roadside figures that are just fun to see. These kind of things really capture the quirky spirit of Route 66.
In El Reno, we stopped for a photo op with the iconic 66 sign. You can actually sit inside the 66 for a great picture. It's a simple but classic Route 66 moment.
Afterward, we drove across the lake over Tulsa Bridge. This historic 1920s bridge is one of the longest still in existence on Route 66 in Oklahoma. It is a beautiful spot to take a moment and appreciate the engineering of the past.
For the night, we checked into the Sleep Inn and Suites in Oklahoma City. It's not a classic motel, but after a long day of exploring, a comfy bed and a bit of modern convenience were just what we needed. Just down the road, we tried to visit John's place at OK County 66, which is full of quirky memorabilia, but unfortunately we arrived too late in the day. It was already closed.
We visited the Round Barn in Arcadia. It's a completely round barn, one of the only ones left in the US. It was built in 1898 and has been lovingly restored by locals. It is such a unique piece of architecture. Luckily, Pop 66 was still open. This is the famous road stop known for its huge neon soda bottle that lights up at night. Inside they have over 700 types of soda. So we stayed for dinner and watched the neon bottle light up as the sun set. Hi everyone, we are now in Oklahoma City, but we're just out of Oklahoma. We're in Arcadia, and this is the pop store.
We drove by the historic Arcadia filling station and then made our way to the Westfall Phillips 66 station in Chandler, another preserved Route 66 gas station. It's a reminder of how essential these little places were to the early travellers.
After that, we continued to the Rock Cafe in Stroud, though it was too early for lunch. Fun fact, this cafe is famous for being one of the inspirations for the character Sally in the movie Cars. The cafe was built in 1939 and has been restored after a fire in 2008.
Driving through Bristow and Sapulpa, we reached Tulsa, where we couldn't miss the Golden Driller, a giant statue that represents Oklahoma's oil heritage. It's a Tulsa landmark and one of the tallest freestanding statues in the US. We then hit up a laundromat bar where Mandy tried out the massage chairs, though judging by her face, I'm not sure it was a relaxing experience.
For the night, we checked into the Desert Hills Motel in Tulsa. This place is a classic with its neon cactus sign and its mid-century vibe. It's been a part of Route 66 since 1953 and it's still one of the best preserved motels on the route. The next morning we saw the famous Blue Whale of Catoosa. This giant blue whale by a pond has become an iconic stop on the Route 66 and we even spotted turtles in the water.
We drove over the historic Pryor Creek Bridge, an old iron truss bridge that's been here since 1926. It's a great example of the classic Route 66 infrastructure still standing today.
For lunch, we stopped at the Highway Cafe in Veneta, another slice of vintage Americana that has been serving travellers for decades.
After that, we cruised through Miami, passing the historic Coleman Theatre and Wayland's Cuckoo Burger, which is known for its giant cuckoo bird sign.
And that wraps up our time in Oklahoma. Next stop, Kansas, and then on to Missouri. Keep watching as we continue our Route 66 journey all the way to Chicago.
Until next time.